Hello everyone and welcome to Weekly Liberty Rundown.
I'm Sean.
And I'm David.
And here is the news.
And this is the part where I usually make a reference about Keemstar or something.
It's like the last YouTuber I want to be associated with.
We're going to be, today's drama alert is about the vice presidential debates with a reference to Greta Thunberg in there somewhere.
Yeah, not actually, but kind of. You know, God, these debates. Okay, I have to give it to not the debate commission because they're clearly a bunch of fucking losers who can't get a handle on the situation at all. But as for the Trump and Biden debate, that was actually entertaining. I was engaged the entire time. They're both absolute fucking tyrants. Don't get it twisted here, but at least I was having fun. Kamala Harris and Mike Pence, Kamala Harris, and Mike Pence was so bad. It was existence was pain in that hour and a half.
You can't see it, but I'm looking at you with a smug grin and nodding right now.
You know, I really just wanted to go back to the professional wrestling style shitfest.
No, this shit just makes me want to go back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, I mean, also that. But, you know, I'm a little disappointed about Trump's supposed, as some people are calling it, October surprise with the COVID, because really I want to see a town hall style debate with the two of them. I really, you know, call me what you want, and maybe this is the cynical anarchist in me talking, but I just kind of want to see them break out into a fight. I want it. This is so ugly at this point, and these elections are so just disgusting and worthless to me that I would really enjoy that. Just Vince McMahon walking out with a chair and just all hell breaks loose.
I think that plexiglass that was between Biden and Harris would have been just as effective as protecting them from the fighters. Or not Biden and Harris, sorry, Pence and Harris, because you associate them. But whoever... Okay, I feel like no one actually thinks those dividers worked. Every single publication I read is saying, oh yeah, those dividers, they don't work. I think the only person who thought the dividers would work were the people who put them up in the first place, and even then, I don't know if they have faith in those dividers anymore.
No. I mean, you know, and they're only on one side of them, right? So, I mean, what's the point? And then you have the moderator in front of them, no divider there.
But you didn't know that COVID doesn't know how to move sideways?
Right. True. That's true. You know, it really takes me back to the beginning of this whole debacle where I would go to the days. I would go to the store and you know, everyone was distancing or whatever, and the lines, you know, everyone's saying stay 6 feet behind the person who's in front of you, but the lines were right next to each other.
Yeah, the lines. They fixed that now in most places. I'm sure it's still fucked up in a lot of places, but they fixed that now. People are actually wearing their masks. They still have those dumb barriers, but I guess they are more effective now than they were back then, considering all the measures we have now. But another thing is, let's see, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, the masks help with not getting liquid droplets on your clothing.
You know, what is this? Some just sort of reality check? I don't understand. Like, have we all just been this absolutely fucking disgusting before? Everyone's talking about, oh well, it protects your mask protects me because you know you spit and stuff when you talk and you sneeze and things like, you know.
Yeah,
I was taught to sneeze into my arm or into a napkin or stuff like that. Like, who the fuck is going out there just like grabbing shit and touching their face, and you know, maybe you should get COVID because like what the fuck is wrong with you?
Life lessons.
Honestly, like seriously,
instant
like
demonetization right here.
Yeah, like you guys are catching all kinds of shit aside from COVID. If you're going out to like a Home Depot and putting your hands in the cart and then grabbing items off the shelf and then putting them back because you decide, nah, maybe I don't need that, and then picking your fucking nose, like, that's not my problem. Well, I don't know. Stop being disgusting.
Also, trust me, this tirade actually is relevant because the first point in this debate was COVID. And Harris pretty much won this one. Like,
we had a topic.
Like, I think the fact that Pence was in leadership during this entire mess means that Harris pretty much won this point because
absolutely
she couldn't really do anything. Trump and Pence were the ones that basically hid information about COVID. To be fair, we will give a more nuanced point regarding this. Later on, but for now, Trump and Pence were the ones who pretty much handled everything regarding COVID.
Right. And it was, to be fair, like, it was an absolute fucking disaster. I mean, Trump super downplayed it and all this other stuff. And granted, the other side absolutely overplayed it. I think the left is kind of notorious in this day and age for overplaying their hand. That's all they know how to do. So, both sides are kind of a shit show here. But Trump is the one in power, and to Harris's sort of advantage here, she does kind of get like she does have an upper hand to sort of be in the position of armchair quarterback,
especially since like the writing's on the wall. You've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of bodies being buried in mass graves. You've seen 200,000 people died from it, which is more than the flu. And Trump still compares it to the flu, but it's a lot worse. And what else? Oh, yeah. And you have the fact that they fucked up at pretty much every turn.
Every turn, yeah.
And so the smoking gun is really in their hands at this point.
Yeah.
If that's even saying, which I think it is.
Yeah, and Harris, I don't even know if I'd say she did a good job at this point. It was just kind of a gimme for her, right? She kind of ran down the road of economic blame, which is just a little obnoxious, because she obviously used the line that everyone else is using, that coronavirus ravaged our economy. Coronavirus didn't do shit
to our economy.
To our economy. It killed people. Granted, like let's not. I'm not going to downplay that at all. Like, lives were taken. That's fine. I mean, it's not fine. It sucks. Yeah. But you know what I mean. But coronavirus didn't like go around handing out mandates to businesses to close their doors. Most of them, many of them indefinitely.
With no safety net too.
With no safety net, and a $1,200 check once.
Yeah. No, we're gonna sound like a few burnouts in this thing, but there's a lot of asterisks near these sayings.
Right. To be fair, but
to be fair,
it's so she kind of threw that point in there and sort of blamed that on Trump, but which has been sort of a sneaky thing the Democrats have been doing when it comes to that, because I think anyone listening to our podcast who knows us or is a listener of us is probably among the crowd that understands that Trump didn't shut down the economy.
No, Trump. People give way too much credit to the office of the presidency.
Right.
And they think Trump is behind the scenes of everything. But it takes two parties to run a country. It takes three branches of government. It takes federal, state, and local governments to run a country. And
two parties in this country.
Yeah, in this country. Maybe like 2.5. Maybe you got like a Green Party mayor here and there, but those are negligible. And you have all these layers of government fucking up at every turn as well. Not just Trump. And these are both parties. Like, you have Republicans and Democrats. Larry Hogan of Maryland, he was the one who said, okay, let's just shut the entire thing down. And a lot of these things, too, when Trump said, okay, let's let the states handle it, the states did handle it to some extent, but they didn't handle it well enough.
Yeah. I mean, you had and everyone talks about the Democrats, right? And Don't get me wrong. You have Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer, who had and De Blasio, who had some of the most draconian measures in place to this day, still, right? But that doesn't let guys like Greg Abbott or Ron DeSantis off the hook. They flip flopped a lot. DeSantis has sort of gone off the beaten path here in a lot of ways, and I think right now, aside from one county in Florida, the rest of the state is just there's no mandates anymore, and businesses can kind of do as they please. If they feel like they should have masks, they're allowed to, and all that other stuff. But they were also bumbling fucking idiots this entire time. So
yeah,
but
you either have draconian measures or you don't. You can't have your shit and eat it too.
Right, and so the thing is that everyone keeps kind of playing their hand at this whole thing is Trump's fault. No, it's really not. It's the fault of local, state, and the federal government. Did not have a hand in this. They definitely played their hand and sent the marching orders out. Right? You have state senators and state representatives who are in cahoots, obviously, with their own state governments and the districts and municipalities that they're sort of living in or working in and all that stuff. But
and the fact that Trump doesn't even have the power to handle this stuff. He's not given the power. He can't just sign an executive order and say, all right, we got to do, everyone does this, because there's federalism and division of powers. Congress can't pass anything either, because Congress doesn't do shit.
Right.
They can't get anything done without having 50 million rider bills. So if we have a COVID thing, we're suddenly going to end up with you need to wear clear backpacks at school or something.
Right, and anyone who thinks that Biden would have done this thing, first off, the fact that you want him to, just fuck off. I don't like you. And secondly, he doesn't have the power to, and sort of cheering on the ability to do that. I mean, we're also talking about people who hate Trump, and then we're asking him to lock down the entire country. Right, so it's this whole COVID mess. Kamala gets an advantage as far as the debate goes when it comes to being the armchair quarterback and saying, "Oh well, I would have done this." Shut the fuck up.
Especially
you only get
considering the last time something like this has happened was in 1918.
18.
Last time I checked, I don't think anyone in office today was alive in 1918, especially since Ruth Bader Ginsburg died last week.
Right. So yeah, she gets to win the debate on this one, but to be able to kind of strut around confidently, like everything would have been perfectly okay had her and Joe been living in the White House, it's obnoxious. It's a little much.
It's neither based nor red pilled.
No,
it's cocked and blue pilled.
Speaking of this is actually a terrible segue. We're just going to segue. Climate change. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of cucked, are we cucking the climate, or is the climate cucking us? Who knows?
Both.
But they sort of swung into climate change, which was the next topic here, and it seems to be a topic at every debate now. I'm not sure, but you sort of speaking to this before we started recording here, you thought Pence won this.
I did, and this is why. Harris did back the Green New Deal, and the problem with the Green New Deal is it is insanely expensive. Let me just pull this shit up, Jamie. I'm just Googling Green New Deal cost. Its potential cost is $600,000 per household, which is, it's a lot. And now, to be fair, this is from the Center-Right American Action Forum, and they estimate between 51 to 93 trillion. I highly doubt it's going to cost 51 to 93 trillion, but I don't think that it's not going to be cheap.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the tens of trillions.
Yeah, it'll be in the tens of trillions, I bet, but
whatever those numbers mean, they get high enough that you can't even wrap your brain around that kind of shit.
Yeah, you think trillion is just a little more than billion. No.
Yeah.
It's a billion billion.
Is it a billion? I thought it's 1,000 billions.
Wait, I don't even know numbers. Hold on. Yeah, it's 1,000 billions.
Yeah, it's 1,000 billions. So, just,
Yeah, it's not a billion. It's like a fucking billion. Google or something.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm a computer scientist, not a mathematician. Wait a second.
Yeah. So Pence, there was a lot of question dodging here. Obviously because they're politicians and that's kind of what they're really great at. Pence brought up a number of things in sort of this discussion. He was actually a little more well versed than I thought he would be, given that. Yeah. Kind of, it's very typical of Republicans to just kind of completely ignore this topic and act like it isn't even, not that it's not real, which most Republicans do. That's whatever, but like they a lot of Republicans act like it's not even a real topic. Like it's,
especially since he said, God, we sound like a bunch of fucking Trump supporters, but especially since he said, oh yeah, this is a thing that's real that does damage. I think he was on the right, not the right side, but he was on the winning side of that argument because pretty much everyone is like in agreement that climate change is a thing. Yeah. No one is in agreement of whether it's man-made, who's responsible for it, who's basically who needs to fix it. But the thing is too, he also mentions that the US is lowering its carbon emissions, and it is lowering its carbon emissions. Here's another thing too, and this is someone that came up. It feels like a lifetime ago that this person came up. But Greta Thunberg herself, when she listed the nations in the top emissions, the top 5.
Yeah.
Brazil, France, Germany, Argentina, Turkey. Now, if you notice something, 2.5 of those countries, because Turkey is like a little nub of Turkey, of Turkey is in Europe. 2.5 of these countries are from the supposedly superior continent of Europe. And the other 2 are in South America. And
these are all countries that are still in the Accords, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also another thing that's sort of worth mentioning here when it comes to the Paris Climate Accords is that China and India were both not listed, and the reason why is because they are part of the Accords. China and India are in with the Paris Climate Accords, but there's sort of a difference in how countries are sort of, I guess, classified in the Climate Accords, and China and India are considered developing countries. So when it comes to the Climate Accords, they don't have super strict guidelines because they're developing countries, because they're considered third world countries still. Whereas Brazil, France, Germany, Argentina, Turkey are considered first world countries. Now,
Brazil is questionable.
Yeah, debatable, but here we are. And so, which is crazy because I think any of us who's been alive for more than a decade has seen pictures of Hong Kong and Shenzhen and all these other Tibet.
Yeah, whatever. Those cities look like they were made on the PS2 and they're still rendering.
Yeah, and on top of that, like
Silent Hill 2, where the fog is in the background, so the environments can load in as you're walking. That's what Chinese cities look like.
Right, and more to the point of that is that those are first, like, there's nothing about those that are like developing per se. Like they're very much first world. They're developed cities. The
cities.
India, India, outside. You can. Well, yeah, India. You can make. There's an argument to be made about India being a developing country. Absolutely. The problem is that these are 2 of the largest polluters in the world.
Yeah. Especially China, but India. The thing with India is they have a lot of water pollution. Oh
God, the Ganges.
People bathe in the Ganges, but it's not something you should be bathing in.
Right. Yeah.
And
So,
they burn bodies and stuff. There's a lot of natural pollution, but it's still pollution. It's weird.
yeah. I don't know. It's just, it's a very interesting. The climate cores are a very interesting thing. Trump pulling out of them, I agreed with. I don't like the guy, but I kind of thought that was a good idea in general. They have a very totalitarian sort of lean to them in general.
I just don't trust Europeans. Unless they're libertarians, like the lovely Europeans watching this video.
Yeah. So, yeah, pulling out was in my opinion the right thing to do, and Pence was kind of had some facts. For a Republican, he kind of handled that very well, considering most Republicans in history just kind of fumble over the climate change conversation like absolute fucking idiots.
He did a great job at basically shitting on Harris too regarding California and its abysmal forestation policies.
Yeah, man, it's been about a week since I've been able to see blue sky. It's nice. I it's back now. But yeah, to be fair,
this is why I don't live in the West Coast. That and the absurd cost of living.
Yeah, well, also that. But yeah, and to anyone who's never been to the West Coast or doesn't know, pretty much everything west of like Wyoming, or even Wyoming, just kind of burns for a good couple months till the end of the year. Really. So
I hope you like
barbecue. But even he brought up the point that even Gavin was talking about. Our horrific, lovely governor Gavin was talking about forest management and how it needs to be improved and all that other stuff. Which point to him, actually. That was.
And we have controlled burns in the East Coast, and even though it's way more humid here than it is over there, and fires were rare to begin with, we don't have fires here. Like.
Even the native populations who lived out here before settlers came were doing that. So there's something to say there.
You done fucked up.
Yeah.
It's not even just Gavin. It's all the Gavins before him.
Right. Yeah. To be fair, Jerry Brown had a big hand in that, and Gray Davis, and all those. They're all assholes. Whatever.
Fremont himself.
Yeah. So moving on to another big topic, which has been a big topic for a couple of weeks now at this point, is Trump's tax returns.
Oh, never mind.
Oh.
I was about to say fetus deletus, but that's later.
Stick to the outline.
Do you think Trump's tax return? The outline?
No, I don't. That's why I keep it in front of me. Trump's tax return, and Harris brought this up, and was, as Democrats are, visibly appalled by, oh my God, he only paid $750 in taxes, which, as anarchists were like, cool. Nice. Taxation is theft. Like, fucking mint. I don't know how'd you pull that off, but good for you.
All right.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's really aside from his abysmal debt and all that other stuff. Because as a businessman, he's real hit or miss.
Yeah. Or he is secretly playing 4D chess with his businesses, like he is with the country.
Yeah, clearly, yeah, bum stock bans and all. But yeah. So Harris brought up some really hilarious points here. One was that really stuck out to me. In my rage, I was able to catch this. Was she said that the Trump tax cuts raised the deficits. To cite kind of pulling that out just in a vacuum is just, it's really obnoxious to say that.
Let's say disingenuous.
Thank you. It's disingenuous to say that because this isn't cut and dry, right? Taxes exist in the framework that we live in because of the fact that things need to be funded, correct?
Yeah.
So
if you have more things that need to be funded,
you have more deficits and therefore need to raise taxes or sometimes even just print money in order to pay for those things. All things I vehemently disagree with, obviously. But to say that Trump's tax cuts were the reason the deficits increased is a little silly, because other laws were passed in that time that required an increased deficit. Actually, when Omnibus passed, the tax cuts were in there, but Omnibus also required increased spending. So, I don't know what the fuck was going on with that, but hey, government. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know. How about reduce spending? I mean, I know that's a tall order for government, and it's an obnoxious thing to ask them because they never fucking will.
They pat themselves on the back when they don't increase spending. Like...
Correct. And this isn't, a lot of people like to talk about, Trump lowered taxes. That's actually not correct. Trump cut taxes, and I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a burnout here, but just bear with me and bear with us, because we've talked about this. Trump cut taxes for the rich, right? And that by itself, all alone, that's fine, right? But the problem is that you had, especially like with the omnibus bill, right? You had an increased in a need for more spending, which increased the deficits, right? It wasn't the tax cuts themselves. It was the deficit increased with more funding to different things. So what that actually ended up doing was that it just shifted the tax burden, right?
Yeah.
To the middle class and the lower class. Now, if he had just lowered taxes for everyone, that would have been great, and raising the deficit would have just been like, I don't know what the fuck you're going to do here. You're probably going to print money, which just ends up fucking everyone in the long run anyway. But that's kind of like where we're at right now, right?
Of course. And another thing, too, is we mentioned Trump's debt earlier. They have these corporate loopholes. We don't know these loopholes because I'm not an accountant. In fact, I got a C in accounting in college, which, guess what? I got a lower grade in accounting. I got an A in calculus. So calculus is easier than accounting. But anyway, the corporate tax structure is very complex.
Yes.
When Harris said Trump owes $400 million, and she's like, "Oh, it's a security issue," I would agree that if Trump owes someone else $400 million, then yeah, it's definitely a national security issue, because even if if you're a government worker, like even bottom of the barrel government worker, you still have to report to your superiors if you're in debt.
Yeah.
That's like exceeding a certain amount. And so I feel like Trump probably had to report to someone that he was in debt, and the details of that as well. And the thing is, too, here's my personal theory. This is not a fact. This is a theory. He probably owes this debt to himself, and that's probably why he only paid $750 in taxes. Because he owns multiple corporations. He probably just, quote-unquote, borrowed money from one corporation under his own name, under another corporation. Sort of like what the U.S. government does with its national debt.
Yeah.
So he probably
that's a good point.
He probably did a pro gamer move with his accounting, and that's probably why he owes $400 million.
Based and red pilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Another point that they also went on to was fetus deletus. That as you said earlier, abortions, which I gotta open up here and say, if you're pro-life, I get it. I hear you, but if we're talking about sort of cultural norms right now, and in terms of elections, it's just a losing strategy to be against. To sort of like...
To want to overturn Roe v. Wade, let's be specific.
Right!
Because Roe v. Wade is an extremely
decision.
Settled Supreme Court decision. And the thing with that is, you can't just go around overturning decisions and expect that to be a winning battle.
Which also brings us to the Amy Coney Barrett Supreme Court nomination, right? And this is another one of those things where everyone kind of freaks out, but nobody actually understands and kind of looks at the nuance of the situation. Oh, she's a Catholic, I believe, and she's pro-life and all this other jazz, yada 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 yada, whatever. But when you look at Amy's record and who she is, yeah, she's against abortion. Yes, she's pro-life, but she's also someone who Republicans are kind of like hounding Democrats and freaking out because she's a constitution. She's not a constitutionalist. Actually, Amy Coney Barrett believes that legal precedent has more weight than constitutionality, right? So when you consider that and you look at Roe v. Wade, and that is a legal precedent that has been settled by the Supreme Court, she's likely to not even go near it.
Yeah. And especially since this is something that's been constantly... I feel like it would be political suicide to go after that.
Yeah.
Like,
it really...
Let's be real here.
Yeah, it's just... That's not good for anyone's career as a politician, a justice, whatever you really choose to be in that realm. You're all scum.
And plus, let's be real here. Handmaid's Tale is dystopia for brainlets.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sugarcoat that shit. It's dystopia for fucking oppression complex people.
If you're on Facebook and you're one of our listeners, there's a wonderful group called Everything I Don't Like is a Handmaid's Tale. Just gonna plug that there. I'm not even in that group. I need to join it. But yeah, this sort of it's. But I mean, this kind of goes back to our current culture of nobody actually understanding the issues or what's going on here, which is kind of funny because as an anarchist, that we kind of take the time to understand these things as much as we all just want it to go away anyway.
It's in the words of Emperor Palpatine. Since I want to be a soy boy and make a reference to pop culture, ironic.
Yeah.
No other fictional character has said the word ironic before.
Yeah.
0.
It's true. But at the end of the day, if we really have to look at these debates also and realize that nobody gives a fuck about these people's policies. No. I was on. We're all on social media here. You're on social media, and after the debate, all I really saw was really clips of Mike Pence having a fly. They're both white-haired old men, so Mike Pence having a fly on his head, or Kamala saying "I'm speaking," and that was it. Really, it was a 1-second clip of Kamala saying "I'm speaking," and it's like, oh, she's so brave. That's not fierce. This is a debate. Like. That people interrupt each other. That's what happened.
If you've seen last week, Trump mansplained the shit out of Biden. Like, fuck.
Nobody was listening to the moderator at all. Chris Matthews got manhandled. Maybe even worse than Lester Holt. Or Chris Wallace. I'm sorry. Chris Wallace got manhandled. Probably even worse than Lester Holt did 4 years before him. So it's really, it's just kind of how this goes, especially given this sort of cultural moment we're living in, right? Like, these people are going to interrupt each other. It's a debate. They're going to hear points. They're obviously going to get irritated by the other candidate maybe telling a half-truth or lying or just calling them out on something that actually is true, but they want to try to explain it away somehow, right? So, like Pence, I got to give a point to Pence, speaking of which, because when Kamala was bragging about her... God, I sound like a Trump tard. When Kamala was sort of bragging about her prosecution record here in California, as a Californian, which is hilarious to me, watching her do that. Pence brought up her marijuana convictions, which really surprised me because he's a very traditionalist Christian Republican, and I really didn't expect him to attack that. But hey, politics, you got to go where you can go. And sort of nailing her to the wall on her prosecution record and how people of color actually did suffer more under her reign as AG.
It's like we're living in the fucking Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Welcome to 2020.
And what else is funny too is we're gonna shit on Pence now. When it comes to debate etiquette, Pence was a pretty bad offender of continuing to talk after the 2
He
minutes
was the
were up,
worst.
and he wouldn't even say anything of substance. He would just suck Trump's cock for like a minute after. He would just be like, "Yep, Trump is basically the greatest president ever to live, and vote for me and Trump."
Yeah, he wasn't actually making any points in that time where the moderator was sort of telling him to shut the fuck up in the nicest way possible.
Mr. Vice
He was
President.
Yeah, your time is up, Mr. Vice President. Please, Mr. Vice President. Yeah, he wasn't really doing anything. He was just running a campaign ad in the last 30 seconds of him yammering on over the time limit, which is whatever. Him calling out Kamala's record aside, though, that was a lot of fun. Which, I mean, I don't know why anyone I really shouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, I am, because he's a Republican and kind of their general stance on marijuana. But, I mean, Tulsi is the reason Kamala dropped out of the presidential race in the first place anyway, because she fucking nailed her to a cross.
Yeah.
During the Democratic primaries when it came to Kamala's prosecution records.
Yeah, she won all Caesar's Legion on that bitch, to make another pop culture reference. Man, I'm just injecting. There must have been some soy in that whiskey.
Yeah, so I don't know. Really, at the end of the day, this debate was pain. I much enjoyed the Trump Biden debate.
Yeah, even
much
though
more.
There's a lot less to say about the Trump Biden debate other than funny.
Yeah, it was worth a good laugh, and but this is all. The older I get, the more these elections look more like the elections for associate student body president.
Yeah,
it's just a popularity contest. No, nobody on either side. And if you are on either side, I want you to hear me very clearly right now. You need to take the fucking blinders off, okay? Your politician of choice is not blameless. I mean, good for Kamala for being a woman of color, as a senator, Indian American, daughter of immigrants, all that jazz, right? She's still a fucking scumbag, okay? And for the Trumpers, you're just gonna say the 4D chess thing, but the guy has written more gun control in 4 years than Obama did in 8. You're gonna come up with a reason for why that's justified, but it's just crazy. This is insane. I'm sorry. I'm going on a tirade because it's just really getting on my nerves at this.
My favorite are the vote shamers, the ones who say a vote for a third party is a vote for Biden, or a vote for a third party is a vote for Trump. Well, First of all, that assumes that if there is no third party option, that I would vote. And guess what, bucko? I would not vote. If compulsory voting were a thing, I would just fill in both blanks.
Yeah.
Eat.
Yeah, or not voting is a vote for Trump. Or Biden. I don't. Whoever you're.
People who say that, I feel like they cancel out.
Yeah, it's you guys. That's just bad math.
Yeah.
A vote for a third party is a vote for a third party. A non-vote is a non-vote. You're not giving a vote to anyone.
You're
it's
not
just
entitled to your vote.
Yeah, nobody's entitled to your vote. Michelle Obama, who during the Democratic National Convention said now is not the time to withhold or vote third party. No, you're not entitled to anyone's vote.
Guess what? Every election is going to be a special election. Not like a special election, but you know what I mean. Not every election is going to be unique or the most important.
Yeah. Fucking line we hear every 4 years. The most important election of our lifetime.
Except maybe 2012. I feel like 2012 was a pretty standard.
Pivotal? Oh.
Pretty standard.
Yeah. I don't know,
2012 was just, Obama's going to win this one. And we were right.
Yeah, and that was, what was that, McCain?
No, Romney.
I did think it was funny that everyone thought that if Romney got elected, we'd go we'd just go hurtling back to the 50s and women would no longer be allowed to work in the household or something.
And then Trump took us back to 1969.
Yeah. And it wasn't even a good summer, like the song said.
Yeah, even though that guy was 12 when he was in 1969.
Such fucking bullshit.
I know. I don't think he had sexual intercourse at the age of 12. That's a crime.
No. Well, I think we're kind of babbling, and I think we've reached the end of the road there.
Yep, 40 minutes. That's a good comeback video. We'll be back with more semi-monthly Liberty Rundown.